right, looks like we are good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and start unless I get told to stop. So welcome everybody to Planning Commission for October 6, 2020, West Jordan Planning Commission. If you're watching online and wondering who we are, we've got all 7 members of our Planning Commission present at the time. So before we get started, I just wanted to read one quick thing, and then we'll get going here. So due to the increased threat of serious illness and loss of life by the rapid spread of the COVID-19 virus, the chair of the West Jordan Planning Commission has determined that conducting this Planning Commission meeting at the City Hall or another anchor location is likely to contribute to the spread of COVID-19 and would present a substantial risk to the health, safety, and welfare of the city's residents, participants, and observers. Therefore, pursuant to Utah Code 52-4-2074, the West Jordan Planning Commission hereby declares that the meetings of this public body will be held only electronically until further notice. This determination will expire in 30 days from the date the chair of the Planning Commission signs the written determination. Now, with that out of the way, we'll go ahead and get started here. First item up on our agenda tonight is the consent calendar discussion regarding the minutes from our previous meeting. Any comments, thoughts, motions?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Please do. We have a motion by Commissioner Hatch, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to our first public hearing is Soda Blast, 9066 South, 1510 West, conditional use permit for a restaurant and a fast food restaurant in a PC zone. Soda Blast, Larry Curtis is the applicant. Do we have the applicant with us today?
Larry Curtis is not here. I'm his director, Sabrina Daimler.
All right, Sabrina, go right ahead and tell us what you need us to know.
We are actually wanting to add a little soda shop. We actually own the building and we have a cosmetology school right next door. And we've always just purchased drinks for our students and our clients. And we thought everyone loves having mixed drinks now. So we want to put a little soda shop there at the end and have a drive-through. The city has helped me come up with a couple different plans on what would work best for our drive-through in that spot. This one that you're seeing on the screen right now is the one that we'd like to do. We're going to take out 15 parking stalls where we think that 80% of our business is going to be through the drive-through. There will be some stalls in front of the soda shop itself if people want to park and walk in. But there'll be enough spaces for people to be able to pull into that lane and place their order. And they'll wait in that lane and then they'll drive forward across where the traffic will come in and out. You can see just through a pickup window. So that's what we're wanting to do.
Okay, any questions for the applicant?
Yes.
Who is that?
Sorry, that was my son.
Oh, okay. It sounded like an immature voice, but you never know.
Yes.
Anybody else have any questions for the applicant?
Matt, Chair, I do have a question.
Yeah, go for it, Commissioner Hatch.
How many cars can stack up there at the drive-up window? Is there room for 1 or 2 cars there?
2 cars will be able to wait at the pickup window, and we should have room for 4 to 5 cars out in the parking lot. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yes.
Go for it.
I'm wondering about parking that's needed for the cosmetology school and what is currently there versus how much is going to be removed. Could you talk to us about that, please?
Yes. There's a common area as well that we have access to. And then we also do own the first 4 rows that you can see that go all the way down to the stretch of the building. We have anywhere from about 50 students at a time that are there and anywhere to about 20 clients. And we have access to over 150 parking stalls. So that shouldn't be an issue.
So mathematically, it doesn't look like there's any problem with that.
There should not be, no.
sure Mr. Forsyth will give us a little bit more insight on that. I do have one question with this, where this first row of stalls that you're taking out, is this all going to be the queuing area for ordering? And if
Correct.
so, is there some kind of provision for getting pedestrian traffic across that? Does that make sense? It looks like we're going to be queuing all the way, parallel to the building, but people are going to need to walk across that area with cars coming through. Is there some kind of a safety measure there?
I mean, I guess what we were planning on is just, painting the lines where once they drove down the street, they would essentially pull off and be waiting in that queue. So you're saying if someone got out of their car and walked in, I mean, we do plan to have, like a stop sign or a yield to traffic sign if someone were to cross. If we needed to put a crosswalk in, we could.
I'm assuming that Mr. Forsyth will give us some information about that as well, and we'll see if I have any follow-up questions for it after. Anybody else have any questions? All right, we'll go ahead and turn this over to staff.
All right, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, so just real quick to go over the zoning. So this is located in a PC zone, which is kind of that large PC zone on the corner of 9000 South and Redwood Road. This is the commercial area of the Fox Point planned community that's been there for basically since the mid 80s. Anyway, so this zone is kind of conducive to a lot of those commercial businesses, including a fast food restaurant. So based on that and some of the surrounding uses, like the applicant mentioned, there's a cosmetology store and an e-commerce furniture sales office that's taking over the new Shopco building. So a lot of those uses, plus the several fast food restaurants that are already there, should kind of blend well with that same purpose of the zone and some of the existing businesses that are there. So as the applicant said, we've kind of looked at some issues. So I'm just going to kind of briefly touch on the stacking requirements. So drive-throughs are required to have a minimum of 6 stacking spaces, and what those are spaces that basically measure 9 feet by 20 feet. And so essentially your drive-through lane has to be at least 9 feet wide by 120 feet long. So to do that, we've essentially come up with this solution of taking out some of those parking spaces and moving the drive-through lane out of those existing drive aisles so that we're not blocking those. So to kind of answer your question, Chairman, there's a pedestrian area you can see here that's kind of acts as a refuge between the drive-through lane and then the other drive-through aisles. But at this time, there's not really a planned pedestrian crossing there, but I think it might be a good idea to add one, especially if we're going to have people parking on the west side of that drive-through lane and then trying to cross through there. So we did also come up with a second solution, which really isn't quite as ideal, but we wanted to at least provide as many options as we could for the applicant and the planning commission. But so with this, so this configuration adds, the 6 stacking spaces required by code, but it does kind of create a kind of an endless loop situation where if you've got a lot of cars backing up, then it could end up blocking that exit. So this solution is really less than ideal. The only real way it could really work is if we had implemented, like the applicant talked about, taking orders while people are waiting in line and then just using that window to pick up their food. So anyway, those are kind of the main points. So we've added some conditions of approval, basically just requiring the applicant to implement one of these solutions, to offer or to provide the signs, painted arrows, and things like that. to make sure that it functions smoothly. So as long as the applicant can meet all of those conditions of approval, staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit.
Okay, so as a follow-up on that, I think you said that you think it'd be a good idea that we have some kind of a crosswalk that takes us from the bank that's kind of in the middle there across the stacking lane, right?
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of a question as to where the best spot would be, and kind of how
Yeah,
that
so on this page right here, along that red strip, that's the awning over the school, right? Where's the door entrance? Where's the entrance to the school there?
So the entrance to the school there's several doors along this, and this is an awning covering a pedestrian walkway.
Okay, and then just a little bit to the south of that, where that's going to be the space for the new drive up, right? For the new store. So it seems to me that right there would be the ideal space for a crosswalk. So we can tie in entrances to both options there.
Right, yeah, so maybe something tying in this ADA accessible area and just come straight out. That could work.
Can we make that as a condition there, as a condition of approval then?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
I would ask where they are going to have customers come in and getting their hair cut.
So the soda shop is basically in this southern section of the building. And this section here is basically an extension of this awning. So the main entrance to the soda shop proper is right here. And then you've got several storefront glass doors along here that provide access to the cosmetology school.
Our main entrance for the cosmetology school is on the north end of the building.
Is that where you get your clients that come in for their haircuts from your students?
Correct. Our students and our clients enter through that door.
Would it make sense for us to have two crosswalks then?
At the end of the yellow mark where you see is, it's still kind of a ways down from the door of where they go. You would almost need to go like an entire other section of the building before you'd be in the middle of where they come. And where they park all along there. I mean, I don't think that's the most ideal spot. I don't think they're going to walk down to cross and then go back to, the building.
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering if we should have two crosswalks, or is the north entrance, we just can't see it and it's above this stacking lane area. I mean, I guess if traffic's gonna be coming through here regardless, we probably ought to have a crosswalk to the main entrance for your school as well as for the soda shop.
Okay.
Chair.
Yeah.
Chair. What if we just put an 11th condition of approval to install the appropriate crosswalk and signage, including painted lines, and have them work that out with staff as it works for both? I think staff's aware of what we're looking for, and the customer, the applicant, it needs to work for everybody. So I think
Sure, I agree. I don't think there's any reason for them to have to come back and make sure that we're okay with it. We can turn this over to staff and let Mr. Forsyth figure it out.
I agree. I
Okay.
think we just work on that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Perfect.
Perfectly okay with that. Any other questions for the staff?
I have a couple more questions.
Go for it.
The pedestrian area that's outlined in yellow on our screen right now, is that simply a painted area or is that a raised curb?
Right now, it's just planned as a painted area.
Okay. Would as far as with safety concerns and aesthetics, I'm wondering if making that a raised curb would be a better option.
Possibly. I mean, I don't see any real problems with it. I think we, just as long as it meets, you know, certain width requirements, 6 feet is really the recommended width. But other than that, that's really kind of my concern.
Another question I have is with this layout, I can't really see where the cars are coming from. How are the cars going to get into the parking lot? Do we have a larger overall view of this parking lot?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull on that. Does that help?
Yes. Now, as far as so I can orient myself, is south point on the top of the screen and north is on the bottom of the screen?
Yeah, so north is up here, south is down
Oh.
here.
Well, that's north is the top of the screen. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
north is the top.
So 90th south, where's 90th, or sorry, 78th south?
It's 90th.
So
That's
90th
90th.
south is right here. Redwood Road is right here. And then this is 1510 west.
So okay, I see where it is now. Thank you. I was confused. So are the cars going to be coming in from the north of the building is what it looks like, and they'll exit the south of the building?
Correct, yeah. So they'll be coming in primarily off this entrance here, going in basically like this, and then come around out through there.
And then where are they planning to place the I don't know what else to call it, the sign where they stop and look at the menu and place an order? Where's that? I didn't see a plan for that.
The stop sign would be directly across from this entrance here.
No, the little sign where that has a speaker.
The menu board.
Order. Where's
Well,
Yeah,
the idea
a menu
is to
board.
have,
yeah, is that what it's called? I didn't see where that's at.
yeah, we didn't have a plan for that one. One of the conditions of approval basically calls for an electronic ordering system. So this is where employees are basically stand outside next to the line, taking people's orders and payment before they get to that window. So it really kind of, that way they're not just placing their order and then waiting until they get to the pickup window to pay for it. They're taking care of all of that while they're waiting in line, and then the pickup window is really simply just that for pickup. It's really just kind of a system to make it work a little bit more efficiently and keep the traffic moving.
You're describing something like what they do at Chick-fil-A, perhaps?
Right, exactly.
I see. So there won't be an option for a customer to drive to a menu board and place an order, is what you're saying?
Yeah, not that we plan on, no.
Okay. I guess, and I don't know if this is even in our purview, but I would like to see a raised curb there rather than just painted stripes. I think it would be much more aesthetic, and it would help direct vehicles into where they're supposed to go more easily.
So remember, the conditions of approval should be to mitigate detrimental impacts. I don't think the CUP process anticipates any type of aesthetic considerations. It's just to mitigate detrimental impacts to the community.
Well, so in that note, and I'm going to pick this out if you don't mind, Commissioner Shelton, I would dare say that that putting a curb there would be prohibitive, would prevent, I guess preventative is the better word I'm looking for, to being a detriment to pedestrian safety. I mean, I can't think of how many times I enter a drive up and then decide, you know what, I don't actually want to be here, and I just take off But if there's not a curb there, people are just going to come and go. And if we've got employees who are walking up and down the queue, or people coming into the school, who's to say that someone's not going to pay attention when they decide to pull out because they decide they don't want to drink that at that moment? I know it's inconvenient to be stuck in a queue and have, no way out until you get all the way through the line, but you made that decision to get in there. I think if we're going to be putting crosswalks through this parking lot in order to direct pedestrian safety, we ought to also consider pedestrian safety by putting in curbs that are going to prevent cars from coming and going into the stacking queue at their leisure.
Agreed. And the thing with the curb is, perhaps I was looking at it from an aesthetic point of view, but if we're worried about putting in a crosswalk, and there's no curb, I don't know that a curb is going to keep pedestrians going where we want them to go, but my concern is pedestrians are just going to go wherever. And we put in a crosswalk, it's not going to matter one whit. They'll just go wherever they're, they'll just walk to their car. Perhaps we need to put up some sort of a landscaping barrier or something of that nature in that pedestrian 6-foot pedestrian area to direct the pedestrians to a more safe area, like a crosswalk.
I'm going to beg to differ. I think a curb is just as easily walked over as a striped painted line on the ground. I think we're increasing costs.
That's why I'm suggesting perhaps, I know that it can become cost prohibitive, but if there was a shrubbery or some sort of a landscaping barrier built into that 6-foot area.
Short of a chain link barbed wire fence, I don't think you're going to herd people where you want them. They're going to do what they want to do. All we got to do is.
That's true. So what's the point of even adding the crosswalk?
We're mitigating the safety. We're covering our butts. The old phrase of CYA, and the applicant as well. And people get hit outside of that, it's on them.
That's a good point.
Making a mountain out of a molehill here, and I'm not in favor of curbs, but maybe we need to go to the public comment section and come back around to this.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Are there any more questions for staff before we go to the public? Okay, this is our first public hearing, so if you are here to participate in this specific item, the opportunity is now yours to speak. At the bottom of the screen, there should be a place where you can raise your hand. Click into that participants box, and then at the bottom down there, you just hit raise your hand, and then either I or one of the moderators will be able to notice that we've got a raised hand, and we'll call on you. At which point you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, well, I don't see anybody, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing for this item. Bring this back to the Planning Commission for any further discussion.
Chair, I have a few comments to make.
Please.
Well, I think the curb idea, unless we were to put a curb on either side of that drive-through, it wouldn't make any impact. I still have concern of people walking through the queue to get from their parked car into the cosmetology. But I think that's problematic if you go to any strip mall. You've got people walking through. I don't think it's an ideal situation, but I think it is the one that works best for this location. So I'm open for the additional sidewalk markings or crosswalk markings, but unless the curb's on both sides, and then again, people are going to walk over it. So I think the curb is basically an expense that won't really have a benefit.
I guess in my thoughts, and I don't know, maybe I was misreading what Commissioner Shelton was saying. I was thinking of having 2 curbs running side by side so that we had a queue that you enter and can't leave. I wasn't thinking of just having one. I get that there's an expense there, and we can't control whether or not people are going to walk where they're supposed to, but we can control where and how the cars are entering and exiting the queue. Now, maybe we're blowing this up, and the reality is that we're never going to see 9 deep anytime in this, because there are a ton of these soda shops all over the place. But on that event that we did, and we had a line coming in, you know, we don't want people coming and going as they please. That would be my thoughts. I'm not handcuffed to the idea, but that's where I would land on the curb idea.
So Chair, I'm on board with that. And with the safety discussions. The solution shown here, as well as the other alternative, neither of them sit very well with me. To the point where as I was looking over this and thinking about it numerous times over the weekend, I don't think this is ready to be ruled on or have a, I really hope that they get 9 cars. I hope that this is a fantastic business for them. I don't think this is the right plan for getting to that drive-through window. And I would like to see some other alternatives. Possibly one that instead of coming from the north to the south and then to the east, from the drive-through window, continue to the west, across the parking lot and then swing it to the south. Maybe one other option that completely eliminates that issue with crossing back and forth in front of the building. I would like to see some other things like that in order to help improve the safety and the functionality of the site.
You know, as you said that, it actually reminded me of the one we had, like a month ago, where we had the coffee shop at Macy's over on 78th. I think that's kind of the same thing where we're circling the cars around and bringing them up from the west. I really like that idea.
Chair, I think that would also help. Not having a menu board and having someone stand outside and take orders seems problematic to me, dead of winter. People like the convenience of driving up and speaking and having, I mean, obviously it's great to have a real person there, but I don't know how realistic that is. So Commissioner Allen's suggestion of running it the other way would allow for a menu board at the beginning, or at least at some point in that line. And that might actually enhance their business and help drive customers there.
I think it would increase the safety of it too.
One of those options had them coming in at that southern entrance, circling around in front of the stalls. But if we took them back around that little strip there, around to that into that second stall, that would get us the 9 cars easily. We could circle the cars around, and they'd never cross each other. They'd never have pedestrian crossing. I mean, I hate to push off an applicant's request here, but I think we might be in that position where we need to have this looked at with a couple other alternatives that we can vote on.
Or is there an option where we could bring the cars in from the east, then do a U-turn and go back toward the going west, U-turn, go back east toward the building in order to get into the drive-through, and there might be enough stacking to do that. And then I guess the question is there another business that it would be cutting off access to the parking lot from another business? See, yeah, this one that's on the screen right now, I feel like if that went further west out by that white truck that's under the tree, that might actually be feasible, and it doesn't cut off access to the parking lot for the people at the school.
To my knowledge, the main entrance of the new furniture store that's going in is right across, just south of that white vehicle. They didn't do the main entrance where Shopko was. They're right there on the corner. So that's literally in the front of their big building.
So that would not work, would it?
I don't believe so. I don't think that would be what's best for them.
Now, did I understand correctly that those particular parking spaces that we're seeing here belong to the cosmetology school?
To my knowledge, we own the first 3 rows in front of our building. After that, it's common, and it goes the whole length of our building. And then we do get some of the common area parking that we have access to as well. Anything in the common area, I do have to get approved by my CAM.
What if that queue went out to the third row instead of the first, or is it the first row that it's currently in? Or is the first row counting the one that's right up next to the building?
Not the one up against the building. It's 3 rows out from the building. I think if we had the queue go out there, people would only be able to come in and out of those parking rows from the north, because if that circle went around, no one would be able to exit from the south.
Unless there was no line, I guess, yeah.
Well, I guess we need to have a conversation whether we want to send this back to staff for further development or whether we want to vote on this as it is tonight.
I would personally like to see us hold off and see if that other alternative is an option. I think it would be. I think you do the same thing like what Commissioner Shelton's suggesting. You just take that loop and you move it over so it runs within those 3 lanes, or sorry, 3 parking stalls to the west of the building. You still leave an opening so that cars can go back and forth. You've got that yield sign. I think that would be the best solution for this from a safety perspective. You've got the curbing in place so that people, once they get into that line, stay in that line. And I would like to see that brought forward. Do I need to make that a motion, or do we need to talk about it?
Yes, if you'd like to make a motion to remand this back to staff, please go for it.
I make a motion that we remand the conditional use permit for Soda Blast located at 9066 South, 1510 West in a PC zone for the purpose of reviewing the drive-through access as we've discussed this evening.
I second that.
I saw Commissioner Thomas, so I'm going to go with that. So we have a motion by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Thomas, to send this back to staff for further development on the drive up lane. Any discussion to the motion?
I have a question on date. Are we putting this a date uncertain or date to be determined?
Commissioner Allen?
I think that's an excellent question. I guess I'd leave that to staff, so I'd be happy with an uncertain date.
So the issue is our next meeting is October 20th. And if it's not on the October 20th meeting, then it's a whole month until you meet again. So I don't think that we need to be a little more responsive than that. Staff can get this done easily for your next meeting. So
you'd like to see us put a date on that of next
yes,
meeting?
October 20th, yeah.
And we've already done the public hearing, so we don't need to do that. We can bring this back as a business item.
This has Julie. Julie, do you need to notice this again, or if they're continuing it to a date certain, then it doesn't require additional notice, right?
Correct. That's right.
Okay, Commissioner Allen?
Well, I'll amend that then to have this come back on October 20th.
Commissioner Thomas?
I'm okay with that too.
All right, we have an amended motion with the due date of October 20th, 2020. Any further discussion to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seems we are unanimous on that one. Thank you. Moving along to our next and final item. Forever Athletics at 6778 Navigator Drive Suite D, conditional use permit for personal instruction services in an M1 zone. Reginald Dyson is our applicant. Do we have Reginald Dyson with us?
We have Obi Dyson and
Reginald Dyson as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, we'll let you guys decide who's going to share information with us. The floor is yours, as it were.
Okay, thank you guys and good evening. We are wanting to establish our business on 6678 Navigator Drive, which is on the southwest east side corner. We do have, our classes are held in the evenings, and we had emailed you guys a setting pattern of how we would do our drop-off settings as well. Let's see here.
So drop-off is going to be down the southern wall, headed west, and right around the back, which would be north, dropping off at Suite D. The parents would then continue around the building and out. We plan on typically starting in the afternoon, the evening, and that is the time where almost all of the other businesses in the building have already closed for the day. So we've got tons of parking and a clear route around the building.
Anything else you guys want to add to this comments, or should we? Any questions for the applicant, guys?
Just one, if I may.
Go for it.
So tons of parking, especially with other businesses closed. Where we are talking more at evening times, I believe I read in the staff report that there's quite a bit of lighting on the building. I noticed the parking stalls are fairly well spread out. So as people start to come and park, having not been on the site, do you, as the applicant, feel that there is enough lighting to protect those who are walking a little bit further to the unit?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Chair, if I may.
Go for it.
Having picked up and dropped off my daughter at a similar business like this, what plan is in place? I know you've got the line to queue to pick up in the drive aisle, but what I see is parents stacking up on the roads, double parking in the parking lot, which encourages, the attendees to come and go and walk through the cars, which can be problematic at night when it's really dark. Is there going to be messaging to the parents to only use the drive aisle for pickup that's well managed like they do at the schools? Or are you going to allow the free for all to park wherever? Talk me through kind of your thoughts on that.
Sure. So we, in comparison to a lot of similar businesses, we don't host as many people. I think on a typical night, we would be looking at any one given time, about 15 to 17 athletes. I think it would be really, really easy to follow that pattern. And we have noticed with the navigation school that is how it is, and that those parents are all parked along the road, but we don't host nearly as many individuals at a time. And again, most of our parents, as we have asked, once in a while they'll sit in the parking lot and wait for a kid in a business like this. But normally, especially with COVID mandates, I don't expect anyone to be sticking around, and they'll all be following that pattern around.
Yeah, we would definitely email them the pattern that we would like them to follow, along with having a coach out there to monitor that these athletes get, where they need to go as well.
Great, thank you so much.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, Mr. Forsyth, you're on the clock again.
All right, thank you, Chairman. So, yeah, I think the applicant did a pretty good job of going over kind of the main points. So I'll just kind of fill in some of the gaps here. But so with the zoning, this is located in an M1 zone, which is the city's light industrial zone that tends to have more of the higher impact uses. And so dance studios they may not initially seem appropriate to an industrial area, but they tend to kind of gravitate toward these areas because of the larger warehouse spaces and kind of the high ceiling clearances that help in managing their business and doing some of those dance activities. And so we do have quite a few of them, as you know, throughout the city in some of these industrial areas, but we do have the conditional use permit process in place to make sure that we're managing those impacts. And so some of the surrounding businesses, to the north, you've got the Unified Fire Authority, which is kind of their logistics center. To the south is Navigator Point Academy Charter School, which during the mornings and sometimes during the school hours, traffic can get a little hairy along Navigator Drive. So that's just kind of something to be aware of. But and then to the west, you've got the railroad tracks, and then to the east is just that vacant lot there. We pretty much covered the drive aisle. Just want to add, so basically, if you take that entire length, the stacking queue there is about enough for 18 cars, and so most of their classes are going to be average 5 to 12 students. So hopefully that shouldn't become an issue. But anyway, that's just kind of some information to take or leave. Another thing I want to touch on is the occupancy. The building official has looked at this and basically determined that we can't have more than 49 people in there at any one time. And so he's asked us that we put a condition of approval on there that performances not be performed at this location, that they be performed off-site, preferably at a school or someplace that has more parking and it can handle more of those larger groups of people. So anyway, just kind of based on that and some of the comments made here today, staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit.
Any questions for staff?
I have a question, Chair.
Go for it.
What is the lag time, and maybe the applicant can be brought back in if we need to, what is the lag time between classes? If you're doing drop off and pick up in the same area, I mean, potentially that could be 30 cars conflicting in and out to pick up and drop off children if the classes are one on top of the other.
Yeah, I would refer that to the applicant. I'm afraid I didn't have that information in the letter, so.
Chair, are you fine if we bring the applicant back?
Absolutely. If
Hello.
you guys want to speak to that really quickly, that'd be great.
Yes, so the plan. So we do have, due to a lot of the fears and nerves about the COVID experience we're dealing with at the moment, we've established 2 lobbies so that one can be
I think we lost voice on that. Yeah, we lost the applicant.
They just came back.
Okay. We lost you for a minute. Floor is still yours.
Okay.
So we did establish 2 lobbies so that we can have one clean and one prepped as the classes do turn. But the classes run sort of like the building does in terms of running around. So our exit is on the southern wall where the parking stalls are, and that's where most parents will be waiting or taking groups of kids as we do probably plan on carpooling with a large number of families here. So again, the exit is on the southern wall and the entrance is on, I guess it would be considered the western wall.
So how much time are you staggering between your classes? I think that was the question that was specifically asked.
I'm sorry, there's total of 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Classes are on 45.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for staff?
I have
Commissioner
one.
Allen.
So for staff, on condition number 4, we talk about class time shall be held in the evenings and or weekends to reduce parking traffic demand. It says alternative times may be considered on an as-needed basis by the zoning administrator. It's maybe I'm reading too much into it. Hopefully I'm not. But are we talking about on a per class basis? Are we talking about some point when they just decide they're going to do daytime classes, or if they decide that they can get blanket permission for that at that point? What is the mechanism?
Yeah, so that was really just kind of based around what the applicant is currently proposing. So their hours of operations really kind of start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and then go till 9 o'clock at night. But if there was a case where they had, maybe an off class on a Saturday or something where they needed to do that maybe in the mornings, we could take a look at that and work with them and figure out a solution that would work for them as well as for the other businesses there, just to make sure that we're not having any traffic conflicts or major parking demand.
Okay. So I have 2 questions that stem from that then. We'll start first with the parking. So this building has 8 units. It was, if I remember right, two or 3 years ago, it was approved. I assume when it was approved and put in that the proper amount of parking was installed with the facility. What is it that's causing us to have issues now with the parking?
From a required parking standpoint, there is no issue that we can see. Based on the uses that are there right now, they're required to have about 41 parking spaces, and that's required parking in the dance studio plus the other businesses there. And on site, they have about 64. So that's kind of how we figured the parking. There may be additional uses that may come later on, but we probably need to take a look at that when it comes to it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking holistically with this building where we've got all of these. If we're looking at let's say this dance studio and saying your hours of operation are from 3 to 9 and you get 41 parking stalls as a result of that, and then one of these other units picks up a different tenant, or even one of the existing tenants decides to increase their hours of operation, have we just stolen parking spaces from them? And I worry a little bit about that aspect of it, but I understand that we've also put in the proper amount of parking as our code requires.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the required parking for just the dance studio would not be 41. That's the dance plus the other businesses.
Okay.
Just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay. The second question that was coming through, I may have lost it. I apologize. I should have written that down. I did not. If I remember, I'll ask. But otherwise, thank you. I appreciate the answers.
Yeah.
I propose. Are there any other questions for the staff?
I have another question, Chair.
Okay.
Could I just see the image of once the traffic leaves the drop off and pick up, where they're funneled through and how they get back out of the parking area to navigate the drive? Where they exit the parking lot.
Sorry, say that again.
Could you just show the aerial of how the traffic will flow after the drop off and pickup area, where cars will exit to go back out into the community?
So yeah, so that's kind of shown on the screen here. So the idea is for them to come in either from the north or from the south, down here to the southern part of the building, wrap around, and then just exit around the north side of the building and come out.
Okay, thank you.
So I hope that makes sense.
That was perfect because it reminded me of my question, even though it's completely different. And I just lost it again. Sorry. Apparently it's a bad night. Back to the hours of operation. So on that condition number 4, what we're putting in with this conditional use permit is essentially we're saying that they're going to have hours of operation from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. Even though it doesn't say that specifically in the conditional use permit, that's what item 4 is suggesting. If they want to start earlier than 3 or go later than 9, regardless of the day of week, it requires them to first contact the city, talk to Larry or another individual who then gets Larry's authorization to allow them to change those business hours on either a permanent or a temporary basis. Am I misspeaking on that?
Yeah, no, I think you have that correct.
Okay. Is that, maybe Larry, you can speak to that. Is that something that's normal?
I've never done that before. So no, it's not normal.
Is there a different way that we can state that in the conditional use permit?
So what are we trying to accomplish?
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if it's necessary. Right? So say they decide they want to, it's a Saturday morning, they want to have a class from 8 to 10. The way it's written right now, we're going to require them to call you and get that authorization. And there's really nothing describing how that authorization is obtained or how far in advance they need to request it or how that mechanism is requested.
I think that with the safety considerations that have been applied to the application or to the approval, I think that those are adequate. That we really don't need to regulate the weekend use of the property. The building's properly parked based on the square footage of the building. They have provided a pickup and access points for the safety. The applicant is willing to work with their clientele and their customers to make sure that everything's done in the most appropriate, safe way possible. So I tend to agree with you that I don't think we really need to regulate the weekend use of the property because I think most of those other businesses are not in the building at that time. But even if they are, this is one unit out of a 8-unit building, and they have a right to use the business. When they need to use it. It just happens to be that these type of businesses, the majority of them operate in the evening because that's when kids are out of school and that type of thing. But I tend to agree with you. I don't think we need to regulate the Saturday use of it.
So if when we come to the time for a motion, if we were to strike condition number 4, staff would be on board with that?
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions for staff?
I'd like to ask a little bit about, I'm personally, I just like to have staff address the same thing, the hours of business. I'm a little concerned from the 3 to 5, the 3 p.m. to the 5 p.m. hour, and the impact it'll have on units, especially units A, B, and C, but potentially all the units. Currently, A, B, and C reads are vacant. So perhaps right now, not a big deal, but I'm concerned about that 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. window for the other businesses in this building.
What are your concerns?
Inordinate amount of traffic and blocking of business access by people waiting in the drive area to drop off their kids in that 3 to 5 p.m. window.
Yeah, and I think all we control is how the kids are brought and dropped off in a safe manner at the front of the business. if it's an impact to unit C, A, B, and C, I think that that's something that the tenant of unit D is going to have to work out with his neighbors, with their neighbors. I don't like to get into every scenario that could possibly come up. And all I would follow is that it has adequate circulation around the building and the correct number of parking stalls. Quite frankly, I'd hate to have a business next to a Chick-fil-A because they're always out in the your parking lot and blocking traffic. But to me, that's a neighbor to neighbor issue and not so much something that the planning commission, I think, needs to address. That's my opinion. So
That would be a dream, Larry, to have a business next to a Chick-fil-A. A dream, not a nightmare. I could eat there 3 meals a day, 6 days a week.
their food is it's good food. Yeah.
Thank you, Larry.
All right, any other discussion, I guess questions for staff? Okay, let's open this up to the public. If there's anybody left that would like to speak on this item, please take a moment to raise your hands and let us know of your interest. Okay, and seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring this back to the planning commission for discussion, motion, et
I'll
cetera,
make a
et cetera.
motion.
Please do.
Based on the information and findings set forth in this staff report, upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the planning commission approve the conditional use permit for Forever Athletics located at 6778 South Navigator Drive in an M1 ZC zone with the conditions of approval listed on page 2, striking condition of approval number 4.
I'll second that, but we do need to add that the quantity on performance nights cannot exceed 49, and so performances will have to be held in an alternate location.
Thank you for reminding me of that.
Do we need to be specific about that, or is that covered by condition number 3? Because it says occupancy limits as determined by the building official.
I think
we stated that the building official said 49. Is that not good enough? Do we need to be that granular?
No, that's adequate.
That's what I would think. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Let the motion stand as motioned.
That's good.
Okay, motion by Commissioner England, seconded by Commissioner Hatch. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are through on that one. Thank you guys for your patience as we work through some of those thoughts, and thank you for wanting to do business here in West Jordan. We appreciate you. I remember from our conversation last week that there's possibly something Scott wanted to share. I know he's on here. Scott, did you have that? I don't even remember what it was anymore. Do you have that prepared to share tonight, or do we want to move that till our next meeting? Is Scott even still here? Scott looks like he left. All right, well, I will entertain a motion to adjourn then.
Second.
I need a first.
So motioned.
Sorry about that.
We stand adjourned, guys. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Bye.